This is the Tech Phantom, and welcome to video number 12 of this walkthrough. We are playing Dark Souls, and we are trying to figure out the lore of the game, and we are also looking at the location of what I like to call obscure or secret loot. So, in a previous video, we pretty much got through Sen's Fortress, and we beat the level. Now, one thing that I did not talk about that I did want to mention is Night King Rendell, and he is the king of the Empire of Boulder, and the Boulder Knights, which we have fought in the Undead Church, in Undead Parish, and also in Sen's Fortress, followed King Knight Rendell into Sen's Fortress, and I guess it's possible that the king had a noble purpose for coming to Lifedrain. It is possible that there was a large outbreak of undead, and maybe the king was not undead himself. Maybe he was, but maybe he decided to come to Lifedrain to try to fulfill the story of the chosen undead. Maybe he wanted to erase the dark sign forever, and that would allow him to free his people, and that would allow him to reestablish or reclaim his realm. So at this point, we don't know, and I don't think you ever find out if King Knight Rendell had a noble purpose when he tried to take on Sen's Fortress, or if he just became undead. He eventually made it to this area where apparently all the undead end up, and he just tried to go to Sen's Fortress out of his own volition and for his own good, to try to get rid of the dark sign. But maybe he had a larger, more noble purpose, which was to try to get rid of or contain the outbreak of undead in his land. Alright, so that was just a little bit of speculation on Sen's Fortress lore that I forgot to talk about in the last video, and I wanted to share that with you guys in this video. And let me know what you think of this theory in the comments. I'm looking forward to your thoughts on that. Alright, so we're back in New Londo ruins, and if you remember at the beginning of the game, this is where we picked up the S-Dock, and we find the crestfallen warrior, but this time he's hollowed out, and we know that he's hollowed because he looks like a zombie and he immediately attacks us. And as you can tell, he is actually a little bit difficult to backstab. I tried to backstab him here. The much easier thing to do if you're comfortable with parrying is to parry his attacks, and he will go down quite easily because he really doesn't have a lot of strength, but he does have okay physical defense with the set that he's wearing, the chain armor, and he has a decent shield. It's a small shield, but it does have decent stability. So I'm just going to take a couple of frontal attacks at him, and he's gone. So actually, this is going to give me an opportunity to talk a little bit about undead and hollowing out. So we'll be talking about that mechanic of the game as we progress through this new area, and this area is called New Londo ruins, and we've picked up a transient curse, excuse me. And a lot of players like to equip the covetous gold serpent ring here because the enemies in New Londo ruins will drop transient curses, and you need to be either cursed altogether, or you need to have popped or cast a transient curse on yourself like I just did in order to be able to attack these ghosts. If you're not cursed, or if you don't have a transient curse cast on yourself, you will not be able to do any damage to the ghosts, but they will damage you. But I don't think it's necessary to equip a transient curse, and that's because the Trancing Curse drop from the enemies is a pretty frequent event, so I think you're going to get the drop anyway. And there are 5 or 6 Trancing Curses in this area anyway that you can pick up, and you just saw me pick up a couple of Trancing Curses from that vase with that undead body. So I'm already up to 3 Trancing Curses on top of the one that I've already consumed. Okay, so let me talk a little bit as I progress through this area. You're pretty much just going to see me killing ghosts and just abusing the range, the strong attack of the Great Sight, and using my my very stable boulder shield to keep their attacks at bay. I guess one thing I should point out in this area that it does help if you have poise. So I would recommend either equipping the wolf ring or equipping a heavy armor set that can give you poise, and that's because the enemies have a decent amount of damage. But if you have a strong weapon, you know, if you have something like the Great Sight, you should be able, that's been powered up, you should be able to take them out on one hit. So the trick then becomes to make sure that you're not overwhelmed or surrounded by ghosts, because they can pull in packs. And if you have either the wolf ring or if you have an armor set that will give you poise, then you can poise right through their attacks, and you won't have to worry about being stun locked, and they won't be able to sort of gang up on you. So that's the reason why I recommend either a heavy set or the wolf ring to just give you a little bit more poise. Alright, so as I go through this level, again, killing ghosts and picking up items, let me talk a little bit about the undead and hollow mechanic. So what appears to happen in the game, and this actually fits into the lore very, very well, is that humans who are born with a dark sign, once they die, they become undead. And when you are undead, you actually can die over and over and over and over and over again, and you come back to life as an undead. You don't fully regain your humanity, but you come back to life as an undead. So you're sort of not immortal, but you can extend your life quite a bit. Now, the other advantage of undeads is that they can replenish their humanity. So by picking up humanity from other souls, from other corpses, and just from various areas in the game, or from beating the bosses, they can take that humanity and they can replace the humanity that they lost when they died, when they were in human form, and they can go back to human form. So an undead can become human by replenishing his humanity in a bonfire. Now, if you're undead, eventually, though, the problem with being undead is that you will eventually go hollow. And when you hollow out, you will turn into a zombie. Your features will turn even blacker. You will look even uglier than you do as an undead. And you'll just be a zombie. You'll just want to attack whoever is out there. And then once you die in hollowed form, you die for one last time. So the final fate of the undead is that eventually they will hollow out. Now, what's the trigger for hollowing out, for undead hollowing out? And that trigger is a purpose or a lack of purpose. So if you have a purpose, if you have an ambition, if you're following on a quest, if you have an objective, if you have something to live for, essentially, you will not hollow out while you have that. But as soon as you lose your purpose in life, your reason to live, your objective, sort of your guiding principle. As soon as you lose that, you hollow out. And the crestfallen warrior who hollowed out and fought us at the beginning of this video was slowly losing his purpose, and he was slowly losing conviction, and he was getting more and more depressed as we talked to him. And eventually he completely, just lost his will to live, if you can imagine. And he hollowed out, and then turned into a zombie, and we killed him, and he's gone, never to be seen again. So that's the unfortunate fate of the undead. They can live a little bit longer, but eventually they will turn into zombies. They will hollow out, and they will die just like any other human. So what the game is asking us here is that some humans are human, normal humans, and they die and they're done. And so, in some humans that have the dark sign, we don't know how the dark sign came about, but we will find out as we progress through the series. But some other humans that have this dark sign are actually undead, and even though they can extend their life and they can regain their humanity by using bonfires, do they really have a better existence than humans? Are they better than humans? Are they worse off than humans? Normal humans, the outside world, especially the clerics of the Way of the White, think that the undead are almost abominations and they need to be hunted down. And we find out this by talking to Petros and also by looking at the description for the Lloyd's Talisman, which I may have done in an earlier video, but if not, you guys can go back and take a look at the description of Lloyd's Talisman. And it clearly says that the clerics like to hunt undead. So what happens when an undead is a cleric, or when a cleric turns undead? Well, that is a very tricky situation, and we will discuss that, because we will find that exact occurrence later on in the game, and a whole series of events sort of cascades from that. Alright, so I wasn't going to talk too much about hollowing out and the undead, but because I haven't done it in the series yet, I thought I'd talk about it. Alright, so we've just talked with Inward, who's the keeper of the seal. And unfortunately, the reason we had to kill him is because he holds the key to the seal, and he holds the key to the floodgates of New Londo. And earlier in the video, we went up to a door and we were unable to open it. And this key to the seal is what is going to allow us to open the door. Now, the mystery of New Londo, and I'll talk about that for a few minutes here. The mystery of New Londo is that it was sacrificed in order to contain some creatures called the Darkwraiths. And the Darkwraiths are to be feared. They have an insatiable appetite for humanity, so that they're after both the undead and they're after humans for their humanity. And they serve the four kings, and the four kings are the kings of New Londo. And the big mystery here is that the city was sacrificed, the city was flooded in order to prevent the Dark Lords from unleashing their Darkwraiths upon the rest of the Empire, the rest of the world. So how bad really are the Darkwraiths? How big of a threat are they? And also the four kings, so that the outside world had to make a decision that the entire city would have to perish. All of the inhabitants would have to be basically drowned in order to prevent the Darkwraiths from getting out. So we will find out as we progress in this video. We will find out a little bit more about the Darkwraiths. Alright, so Inward actually has a ton of really, really interesting dialogue, and in order to get all of the dialogue out, you need to come to him later in the game. Now, I've decided to to not do that, I've decided to come to him at this point in the game, just because that's how I decided to progress the walkthrough. And as you can see, we took the key to the seal and we were able to open the door, and we were able to turn that lever, and that lever opens up the floodgates and allows all the water to escape. And you know, everything that was keeping the Darkwraiths down, all the water has been gone, so Darkwraiths are now free to come up to the surface. So anyway, if you come to Inward later in the game, you find out a ton of useful information from him. He starts talking a little bit about the Four Kings and how they were one of the original lords that helped Lord Wynn fight with the dragons. But, and this is a very, very important piece of lore here, Inward tells you that an evil serpent tempted the kings with the power of Lifedrain and turned them into evil. So an evil serpent basically turned them to the dark. You know, similarly to what happens in Star Wars with you know, with the Jedi Knights who are turned to the dark. So he doesn't tell you which of this. He doesn't tell you the name of the serpent, so we don't know if it's Frampt at this point. But he does tell you that it was a serpent. Now we know from the covetous gold serpent ring that a serpent is an imperfect dragon. So there is some amount of imperfectness, which implies maybe a leaning towards evil, or towards vanity, or towards greediness. You know, a sort of a negative connotation that goes along with serpents that you wouldn't have with dragons. So the game implies that dragons are the more perfect creatures, and maybe the more maybe they don't have as many evil or bad attributes as a serpent would have. And we don't know if the primordial serpent, Frampt, is truly evil, or if that's just an item description that has nothing to do with it. But we know that Dark Souls doesn't do anything by chance, doesn't do anything without a reason. So I like to think that Frampt, there's something wrong with Frampt. So I know that he's put us on a path to be the chosen one, but I'm starting to wonder now that I found the covetous gold serpent ring, which tells me that Frampt is imperfect, and after talking to Inward, who tells us that an evil serpent seduced the four kings, turned them into, turned them to the dark, turned them into evil, and the Darkwraiths, who were the knights that served the four kings, at that point were turned into Darkwraiths. And we have been fighting with Darkwraiths here, and yes, indeed do. They are pretty darn scary. So I could see why the rest of the world would want to keep them sealed away, underneath tons and tons of water in New Londo. All right, so let me talk a little bit more about Inward, because I didn't have a chance to do that. But if you remember, in Blighttown, we picked up the Crimson set, which is what Inward wears. And if you take a look at the description of the masks, of the mask of that set, and also for the rest of the armor, it'll tell you that there were 3 keepers of the seal that were very resolute. Supposedly were supposed to be resolute in their task to contain the four kings and the Darkwraiths, and they were supposed to oversee the seal, make sure that the floodgates were not open. Eventually, 2 of the 3 keepers left, and the only one left to watch over the seal was Inward. So Inward was the only sort of true resolute keeper of the seal. The other two left for whatever reason. Now, we picked up the remedy spell in Blighttown. And actually, that was one of the reasons we decided to go to 16 intelligence on this build, so that we can use the remedy spell. And if you read the description for the remedy spell, it tells you that Yolva, who was a keeper of the seal, she left her duty and she eventually made it to Blighttown. And it implies that the reason Yolva left her post and came to Blighttown was because she wanted to help those that were being poisoned at the swamp, which is why she created the remedy spell and why she brought it to Blighttown. So the keepers not only is their job to watch over the seal and to protect the floodgates, to make sure that New Londo, the Darkwraiths from New Londo, are not loosed upon the world, but they were also doctors, healers. The game calls them remedicians, and remedition, that's related to the word remedy. It's also related to the word medication. But anyway, a remedition is sort of a ancient name for a healer, for a doctor. So the keepers were pretty brave, but they were also learned, and they believed in healing. And so maybe the third keeper of the seal left to another land also to help those that that were stricken there. We don't know what happened. We only know that Inward was the only one that was left. Now, Inward also sells the resist curse spell, and as a matter of fact, if you watch the dialogue at the very beginning, I didn't have any humanity. I don't think I had any humanity. Anyway, if you talk to him, I guess I did have humanity because I'm in human form here. Anyway, if you talk to him and you don't have any humanity, he will tell you that in your, actually, if you show up cursed, not if you show up with no humanity. Sorry about that, guys. I was looking at my notes wrong. Anyway, if you show up cursed, he will tell you that curing curses is in the realm of deities, or the breaking of the exact word is the breaking of curses is in the territory of deities. So that's a little perplexing. He's basically saying that the only way to break curses is to see a god, a deity. However, he sells resist curse, which by using your humanity, you're able to undo a curse. So I'm still thinking about that, and we'll have to figure that out. All right, the last thing that I wanted to talk about in New Londo is that we have come across quite a few items from Carim. We've come across a parrying dagger. We also found the curse bite ring, which was an item that was an item that was made by or commissioned by the Earl of Carim, Arster. And one thing, guys, that I want to make sure that I don't forget to mention, in the picture-in-picture screen, you're going to see some secret loot. I forgot to, or obscure loot. I forgot to pick it up, so I went back and picked it up after I'd done a little bit of farming of this area. But I did want to show it to you. Anyway, I did want to tell you, just going back to the last thing I wanted to talk about for New Londo. New Londo does have some tie-in to Carim. Either that or folks from Carim, people from Carim, have traveled to New Londo, and we know that because we find items there. We find the curse bite ring, like I mentioned earlier, and we find a parrying dagger, and we know parrying daggers are items that are favored by the folks from Carim because they don't like to fight with shields. They use parrying daggers in their offhand. So, what were the folks from Carim doing there? Were they trying to talk to the Four Kings? Were they trying to talk to the Darkwraiths? We don't know. But that's something that we hope to find out later in the game as we progress the story. And then the last thing about the New Londo that I wanted to just very, very briefly talk about is the curse bite ring itself. And there are two other rings that are similar to it. There's a blood bite ring, and there is a poison bite ring. And those rings were also commissioned by the Earl of Carim. And if you read the descriptions, it tells you that they were made in some hideous manner. And if you look at the description for the Purging Stone, which is an item that you can use to cure curse, it tells you that the Purging Stone was a person at some point, and that eventually you need to use a person or a human in order to get rid of curses, because humans are completely helpless against curses. So through some hideous, abhorrent ritual, the Earl of Carim was able to take maybe the humanity, the soul, the essence of a human, and encapsulate it in a Purging Stone. And when you rid yourself of curse, you're transferring the curse from yourself onto the Purging Stone. And that would make sense, because the Purging Stone can only be used once. You can't use the Purging Stone over and over and over again. You use it once and it's done, it's consumed. So that's the way I'd like to think about that mechanic. So anyway, the folks in Carim are pretty sneaky. They also seem to be willing to sacrifice other humans and do all kinds of nasty rituals in order to come up with, stronger items or items that will help them in their travails. But and they're also trying to reach New Londo for whatever reason. So the folks from Carim are very, very sneaky, and I think we know that they are sneaky because we know that Lautrec, off Anastasia. So nothing that we found out of, we've learned about the people from Carim makes us want to go there on a vacation. Definitely a bunch of evil dwellers in Carim. Alright, so we went and talked to Andre, and we gave him the very large ember, and the description of the very large ember says that it can if you give it to Andre, you can make weapons that are up to a plus 15, and those weapons are on par with legendary weapons of the past. So hopefully we will have a legendary weapon soon after we've upgraded it. Alright, but first, since we're coming down the elevator, we want to go up and we want to visit the crow. We want to see if we can fool the crow into thinking that we are one of its offspring, one of its eggs, and see if he takes us to the Northern Undead Asylum. Alright, so here we are in the Northern Undead Asylum, and we actually need to be careful of these enemies. They're much stronger than they were at the beginning of the game, and they can bum rush you with their torches, and they do quite a bit of damage. Although the gold hem blacks that I'm wearing here has decent fire protection, but still we need to be careful of them. Anyway, the reason we came here is because we wanted to take our weapon to a plus 15. We want to make it godly, we want to make it a legendary, or we want to be able to give Andre the opportunity to make a legendary weapon. And we need to get an item called a Titanite slab, and you need a slab to take a weapon from a plus 14 to a plus 15. And there are not many ways that you can get a Titanite slab in the game, which is unfortunate. You can farm them from the Darkwraiths, and actually the drop rate has increased a little bit after the latest patch. But the only way that to get a Titanite slab for sure at this point in the game is to take on the Stray Demon. So the Stray Demon is the stronger version of the Northern Asylum Demon that we fought at the beginning of the game, and this time he has an attack, an AoE attack that is very, very strong, very, very powerful. So you want to make sure that you stay to his back. And you want to make sure that you have a strong weapon, because he does have a fair amount of health. And he will give you 20,000 souls, but more importantly than that, he will drop the Titanite slab, which is the final material that we need to take our weapon from a plus 14 to a plus 15. You can use chunks to go up to a plus 14, and the Titanite slab to go to a plus 15. And then one interesting thing to think about is that both the Asylum Demon and the demon that we just fought. Sorry, I'm drawing a blank here. Anyway, the demon that we just fought is prevents undead from leaving the Northern Undead Asylum if they're not strong enough to beat them. So you can think of, or I'd like to think of the Asylum Demon as sort of another gatekeeper that in order to proceed, and that's basically what the bosses are. In order to proceed, you must prove your worth. You must prove that you're good enough to beat those bosses and proceed to the next level of the game. And I think that's the reason, from a lore perspective, why it is that you have to fight a boss right at the very beginning of the game. You have to prove to the game that you are indeed a chosen undead or a special undead, because if you aren't, you're not going to make it out of the beginning level, and you're not going to be able to proceed. So, all right, guys. Now, so far this has been a pretty serious video, but get ready for a little bit of comedy of errors here. I'm trying to think of stupider deaths that I've had in the past, but I really can't think of any. This is my stupidest death ever. I'm serious. I play the game quite a bit, and I'm thinking if I've ever had a stupider death. But what's coming up is about as stupid as you can get. So let's watch the cutscene, or let's not watch the cutscene, but you guys are gonna see here what's gonna happen. I'm not gonna say anything. Yep. Apparently I didn't have enough vitality, because I thought you could make that jump, but apparently you can't. So anyway, I'll be back in just a few seconds after right before I recover my souls. Alright guys, so we are back, and we are not going to try drop it again, although I'm sure you can find a spot where with full control you'll be able to fall all the way down, but I'm not going to do that. Alright, so we only have a couple of minutes left in this episode, and the rest of the episode is going to be me upgrading the boulder shield and the great scythe, and I am going to go back and do some farming on the Darkwraiths, because they drop chunks, and I'm going to take my great scythe up to a plus 15. By the way, you can feed chunks to Frampt, and he will break them down for you. Actually, you can feed him all kinds of different shards, and he will break them down for you. So that is quite a useful thing, and you can do that as soon as he awakens, after you've rang both bells of awakening. So that's a very, very useful thing to do, especially because large large shards are a little bit difficult to find. Green shards as well. But if you feed Framp Titanite chunks, or red chunks, or blue chunks, then you can get large shards and green shards as well. Alright, so we have gone through the beginning lore of New Londo in this video. And we've talked about the four kings. They were seduced by an evil serpent. When they turned to evil, their knights also turned evil, and they became the Darkwraiths. And the reason they went evil is because they wanted something called Lifedrain, the power of Lifedrain, and we will find out more about that later. And this power was basically dangled in front of them by an evil serpent, and they were seduced by it. And apparently with this Lifedrain power, they can drain humanity, so they became a danger to the rest of society. So society decided to keep them locked away in New Londo. The whole city was flooded to prevent the four kings from loosening the Darkwraiths upon the rest of the world. So, and we've met Inward, who's one of the keepers, who also happened to be a pretty noble character. It's unfortunate that we had to kill him, but we needed the key to the seal to advance. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. This is the Tech Phantom signing off. Until the next time.